the start of media labeled number 1 of the video recorded deposition of Dr. Stэнli Plotkin in the matter of Lori Matheson, formerly known as Lori Ann Schmidt, versus Michael Schmidt, filed in the state of Michigan, the Circuit Court for the County of Oakland Family Division. This deposition is being held at 5833 Lower York Road in New Hope, Pennsylvania on January 11th, 2018. My name is Tom Liebman, and I'm the legal video specialist for TSG Reporting Incorporated, headquartered at 747 3rd Avenue in New York City. The court reporter is Maureen Broderick in association with TSG Reporting. Counsel, please introduce yourselves for the record.
Aaron Siri, co-counsel on behalf of plaintiff.
Amy Ruby, co-counsel on behalf of plaintiff.
Laura Nusma, counsel for defendant Michael Schmidt.
The court reporter will now swear in the witness.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. You swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Plotkin.
Can we just make a record that it's under this court? I would just like to clarify that this is being recorded by a video deposition pursuant to MCR 2.315.
Good morning. Can you please state your full name for the record?
Stэнli A. Plotkin.
Okay. Dr. Plotkin, have you been deposed before?
Oh, a long time ago, many years ago.
Okay, and what matter was that?
Oh, that had to do with an abortion done because of congenital rubella.
What year approximately?
In the 1960s.
And what was your testimony about?
My testimony was about the abnormalities that occur in infants of women born, that is, infants of women who have rubella during pregnancy, and whose fetuses are frequently affected with considerable congenital abnormalities.
From rubella?
From rubella.
Did that involve a vaccine?
At the time, I was developing a vaccine against rubella, yes.
Okay. Have you been deposed in any other case?
Not that I can recall, no.
Okay. Have you ever been an expert witness in any lawsuit other than this one?
Again, not for many years. I believe I did a couple of those cases in the 60s, but I have avoided depositions since then.
Okay. Why is that?
Because I consider that they seldom bring out all the facts, but I'm willing to help in this case.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to go over a few rules with you for this deposition. The court reporter has placed you under oath. Same as a court of law. You're testifying under penalty of perjury. The court reporter is making a record and will take down the questions that I ask and the answers that you provide. If you don't understand a question, let me know before answering. Okay. The court reporter can't take down nods. That's another rule. So if you, anytime you want to vocalize, please wait till I complete asking a given question, even if you think you know the answer, so that we have a complete record, please. Don't speculate. If you don't know the answer, then so state. But you should provide your best recollection, even if it's vague or partial. Okay?
Yes.
Are you taking any any medications or are under the influence of any substance that might affect your ability to testify today?
I don't think so, no.
Is that no?
No.
Okay. Did you discuss this deposition with anyone?
Actually, no. I've had some conversations with Laura Niesma, but not about the substance of my testimony.
Before today, did you have any discussions with anyone related to this deposition?
No, actually, I know very little about the issue here. I understand that there's a disagreement between parents, but that's all I really know.
And you haven't discussed this lawsuit with anyone apart from opposing counsel?
No.
How did you first learn about this lawsuit?
It was from a lady by the name of Karen Ernst, who was the head of an organization called Voices for Vaccines, which is a group of lay people who are favorable to vaccination. And she had heard from the father, I believe, who was looking for experts to testify on his behalf.
So you discussed this lawsuit with her?
Not really discussed the lawsuit. She referred me to the father, and I sent an email saying that I would be willing to testify. I have not talked to the father. I've never met the father. So everything has happened secondhand, so to speak.
And it was Karen Ernst who asked you to be an expert in this case?
She asked me if I would be willing, yes.
And how many discussions have you had with her?
No discussions.
About this case?
About this case, I've simply had an email exchange asking me to do it.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to request a copy of that email chain. Okay, Dr. Plotkin?
If I can find it, I'll be glad to send it to you.
Thank you. So before today, other than speaking with opposing counsel and an email communication with Karen Ernst, you have not discussed this lawsuit, this deposition, or the role that you'd be playing here today with anybody else. Is that right?
I've had a email exchange with Paul Offit, Dr. Paul Offit, who is actually a former student of mine.
And who's Dr. Offit?
Dr. Offit is a pediatrician at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia.
Okay. And what did you discuss with Dr. Offit?
I discussed with him the issues or the possible issues about refusal to vaccinate.
Okay. And what was the substance of those discussions?
The substance basically concerned what arguments are often used to oppose vaccination.
And what are those arguments?
The arguments generally are that vaccines can cause reactions and that the reactions are worse than the disease.
And what did Dr. Offit have to say about that?
Well, he pointed out, of course, and he's the author of a chapter in my vaccines book, that the opposite is true, that the disease is worse than the reactions to the vaccines.
Do you have peer-reviewed science to support that statement?
Do I have what?
Peer-reviewed science to support that
Yes,
statement?
of course.
And would you be willing to provide that science?
Well, the science is in the chapter in my textbook, but there are innumerable references, some of which I have, but I can certainly provide you with a list of references in the chapter.
Great. Have you reviewed any documents to prepare for this deposition?
You know, I've looked at the web. I don't usually do that, but I've looked at the web, some of the anti-vaccination websites.
And which of those sites did you look at?
Oh gosh, I can't give you the names. I've just sort of scanned through a number of them.
Do you remember the names of any of them?
Let's see.
And Dr. Plotkin, just to be clear, if you don't remember something, just say you don't remember and you can move on from there.
Yeah, well, here's one called Vax Truth. Everything you ever needed to know about medical exemptions to vaccination but didn't know to ask. There were a couple of others that I looked at, many of which were appalling.
And why do you believe they're appalling?
Because they're ignorant of the facts, exaggerations, half-truths, or even misconceptions.
Vac Truth, is that a website that catalogs personal stories of families who believe their child was injured by vaccines?
You know, I did not, what shall I say, read these word for word. I imagine that that's the case. But I couldn't tell you specifically about which website says what.
Mm-hmm. But you found Vac Truth appalling?
Yes.
Okay. Other than reviewing what you refer to as anti-vaxxer websites, did you review any other documents to prepare for this deposition?
Yes, I looked at a number of vaccine safety studies, which again are referenced in the vaccine safety chapter.
Mm-hmm. And apart from that, anything else?
No.
Okay. Have you been provided any documents related to this lawsuit?
To whom?
Have you, Dr. Plotkin, been provided any documents relating to this lawsuit specifically?
No, I have not.
Okay. Have you reviewed any medical records related to this case?
Medical records? No.
Okay. Have you done anything other than what we've already discussed to prepare for this deposition today?
No, basically no.
Okay. Have you discussed the child at issue in this case?
No.
Okay. So you don't know anything specific about the child at issue in this case, correct?
I do not.
And you don't know anything about her medical history, correct?
Correct.
And you don't know anything about her family's medical history, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have you been on any trips in the last year?
Many.
Where to?
Gosh. Several trips to Europe, to France, to Germany. Let's see. Have I been to Asia in the last year? Yes, I've been to Japan. Basically, I mean, of course, many trips in the United States, England,
How many
at
times?
least a dozen trips.
At least a dozen. How many times were you in France in the last year?
Oh gosh, twice I think.
Okay. Germany,
Once,
England.
once,
Okay. These were all separate trips
yes.
in which you got on a plane from the United
Yes.
States, flew there, flew back. Okay. Japan, how many times?
Once.
How many times to other countries outside of the U.S.?
Oh, gosh. I've probably had about a dozen trips
Dozen
altogether.
Okay.
If I had known you were interested, I would have brought my calendar.
How about trips in the United States that required you to get on a plane? How many of those would you say in the last year?
Mainly to California, a lot of trips to Washington, Boston.
California, Washington, same city in California each time or different?
No, San Francisco, San Diego.
Okay. What were the purpose of most of these trips?
Attend meetings, scientific meetings.
Were any of them related to companies developing vaccines?
Oh, yes.
Would you say most of them were?
Most of them. Probably about half of them.
Do you have any trips planned for 2018?
Yes.
Okay, where to?
I'll be going to India next month. However, I'm trying to cut down on foreign trips, so at the moment, I'll be going to Germany in June. Aside from that, I'll be going to France in May. I think that's all I can recall at the moment.
What's your trip to France for?
I'll be teaching in an advanced vaccinology course in Annecy.
Where, I'm sorry?
Annecy,
What's that, I'm sorry?
Annecy. It's a town in France.
Okay. And who's sponsoring this course?
Well, it's sponsored by the University of Geneva and the Gates Foundation.
Anybody else?
No, basically those are the funders.
Okay. And your trip to Germany, what's that for, Doc?
I'll be going to visit a biotechnology company that is trying to develop vaccines based on RNA.
Okay. Do you have a position or affiliation with that company?
I'm simply on their scientific board.
Okay. And your trip to India, the purpose of that one?
To discuss vaccination against chikungunya virus, which is epidemic in India and in South America.
And who are those discussions with?
Well, it's under the aegis of an organization called CEPI, which is a coalition to develop vaccines against epidemic diseases. Okay. So it's an organization that's received funding from various governments to meet the challenges of epidemic diseases like Ebola and chikungunya, et cetera.
This trip also include meeting with vaccine developers?
Well, they will be present at the meeting. They will come and present the results of their efforts to develop a vaccine against chikungunya.
Any trips planned in the United States for 2018?
I wish I had known to bring my calendar. I have no trips planned this month, or actually next month, but I will be going to some NIH-sponsored meetings in March, as I recall, and there's a vaccine conference in Washington in April I'll be going to.
When you say Washington, do you mean Washington State or District of Columbia?
District of Columbia. In May, I'll be going back to France for the advanced vaccinology course. That's as much as I can remember at the moment.
Okay. There might be others, you just don't have your calendar here today, right?
Right.
Okay. And the NIH meetings, where are those taking place?
In Bethesda.
How far is that from here?
From here?
Yeah, do you drive there?
Oh, no. I take the train to Washington and then the metro to Bethesda.
Okay. How long does that trip take?
The train is an hour and a half. The metro is maybe 20 minutes.
What's the name of the plaintiff in this case?
Well, from what was said before, the plaintiff, I think, is someone named Schmidt. I've not followed, as I said before, I have not been involved in the legal details, so I don't know the names except from what I've heard.
What's the name of the defendant in this case?
As I understand it, they're a married couple, but that's all I can tell you, so I presume that they're both named Schmidt.
Okay. What's the name of their child?
I do not know.
Okay. How old is their child?
I do not know.
Do you know whether the child has received any vaccines?
I do not know.
The name of the child is Faith, and I'll refer to the child as Faith during this deposition, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Faith's father believes that Faith's mother was wrong to not have given Faith all CDC recommended vaccines on time. Do you agree with the father?
Yes.
Is it your understanding that the father wants Faith to receive all vaccines she has missed and continue to receive all CDC recommended vaccines?
That is my understanding, yes.
Do you agree with the father that Faith should receive these vaccines?
Absent any contraindication, yes.
Sitting here today, do you know whether Faith has any contraindications?
I do not know.
So sitting here today, you don't know whether Faith should or should not actually get these vaccines.
In the absence of a contraindication, Faith should receive the vaccines.
But you don't know whether she has a contraindication.
I do not know the medical history of the child.
What vaccines has Faith missed according to the CDC schedule that you believe she should get?
Well, the CDC's schedule includes diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, hepatitis B, Haemophilus influenza, polio, measles, mumps, rubella. I don't know how old she is, so I don't know, where to stop. But there are vaccines recommended in pre-adolescence, so she should receive those when she reaches the appropriate age.
So just so make sure I understand, you believe she should get the hepatitis B vaccine,
Yes,
rotavirus,
yes,
DTaP,
yes,
Hib,
Yes.
PCV13,
Yes.
IPV,
Yes.
the flu shot annually,
Yes.
IIV, we'll call it the flu shot.
At the moment, yes.
I'm sorry, at the moment.
At the moment.
What do you mean?
I mean that there are 2 influenza vaccines, one of which is recommended for this year. The other is not recommended at the moment, but may be in the future.
Okay. You think she should get the recommended one?
Yes.
And you think she should get the MMR, I believe you said,
Yes, and varicella.
and hepatitis A vaccine,
I'm sorry?
and the Hep A vaccine?
And the Hep A vaccine, yes.
Okay. How many doses of Hep B as a child do you recommend they receive?
3,
How many doses of rotavirus do you recommend?
2 or 3.
And you recommend Faith receive those, right?
Yes.
And you recommend that she receive the 3 doses of Hep B?
Yes.
And how many doses of DTaP do you recommend she receive?
Well, currently at least 3, then a booster, and eventually another booster.
And how many doses of HIV do you recommend she receive?
Well, 3 are usually sufficient.
Okay. And how many doses of PCV13?
3.
And how many doses of IPV or inactivated polio vaccine?
3.
How many doses of the flu shot?
Well, 1 per year.
And how many doses of MMR?
At least 2, yes.
How many doses of varicella?
2.
And Hep A?
2 or 3. 2 is often sufficient.
Okay, and those are the doses that you recommend that Faith receive, correct?
Yes.
Okay. For each of those vaccines we just went through?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there are the adolescent vaccines as well.
And what are those?
Well, meningococcus is often recommended, and also human papillomavirus vaccine, especially if she is a girl, but it's also recommended for boys as well.
And you recommend that Faith receive those as well, the meningococcus and HPV vaccine?
Yes.
Okay. Any others?
Well, I could look up the vaccine schedule if you wish me to, but I am sure that I agree with all of the CDC recommendations.
Okay. How about when she becomes an adult, would you recommend that she get all of the vaccines that are recommended by the CDC for adults?
Well, certainly, yes.
What are the, can you please tell me the brand name and manufacturer for each of the Hep B vaccines?
Oh. I do not try to memorize brand names. As I recall, Engerix is the most commonly used hepatitis B vaccine, which is manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline. There's also a vaccine manufactured by Merck. I don't remember the trade name at the moment. As I said, I don't try to memorize trade names.
Okay, so for the hepatitis B, there's a vaccine manufactured by GlaxoSmithKline. Can we refer to that either as Glaxo or GSK today?
Okay. Yes.
And there's one manufactured by Merck.
Correct.
Okay. Rotavirus, what are the brand names and companies that manufacture those?
Well, actually, one of the rotavirus vaccines I developed, so I do know that the trade name is called Rotatech, and the other one is called Rotarix.
Okay, and who manufactures those?
I'm sorry?
Who sells those, manufactures those?
Merck manufactures Rotatech, and GSK manufactures Rotarix.
Okay. How about DTaP? What are the brand names and manufacturers for DTaP?
Oh, boy. Sanofi Pasteur manufactures DTaP, and so does GSK. I do not remember the trade names.
How about the hepatitis B vaccine? Can you tell me what are the brand names for those products and the manufacturer?
For hepatitis B?
For Hib, I'm sorry.
For Hib.
I apologize. Did I say Hib B? I meant Hib. Which stands for what, by the way, Dr. Plotkin?
Haemophilus influenza type B.
Thank you.
Well, again, my recollection is that Sanofi and GSK, yes, both manufacture HIB.
Okay. And what about PCV13? What is the name of the product and the manufacturer of that vaccine?
I don't remember the trade name, but Pfizer is the manufacturer.
Okay. And what about the flu shot?
Oh, well, there are multiple manufacturers.
There are multiple manufacturers, flu shot. Yeah. Let's, in terms of flu shots, let's strike that. We're going to come back to the flu shot. Make it simpler. Well, let me ask you this actually about the flu shot. What flu shots, are there any flu shots recommended for children under 1 year of age?
No, 6 months usually is the time at the age at which influenza vaccines are recommended for children.
Okay, and do you know who manufactures flu shots recommended for children under 1 year?
For children?
Yeah.
I don't remember which of the manufacturers. There are probably 10 different influenza vaccines, not all of which have been tested in children. So there are relatively few for children, all of them manufactured in chick embryo. But anyway, I don't. I'm sure that the major manufacturers like Sanofi and GSK certainly manufacture influenza vaccines. There's an Australian manufacturer, CSL.
But I mean, just for, I'm sorry, Dr. Plotkin, just for by age group. Let me make this simpler. Do you have a recollection of which flu shots are recommended for which age groups?
You mean which manufacturers?
Right.
No, I don't recollect.
Okay. In terms of the IPV, the inactivated polio vaccine, what is the product name manufacturer for that?
I don't remember the trade name, but Sanofi and GSK both make IPV.
Okay. And the MMR vaccine, what is the product name and manufacturer for that one?
Merck is the manufacturer. GSK also makes one, but Merck is pretty much the American manufacturer for MMR.
Okay. And for and for varicella, the product name and the manufacturer?
Well, Merck again manufactures varicella vaccine, and GSK also does.
And then for the hepatitis A vaccine, what are the product names and manufacturers?
Hepatitis A, GSK is the biggest manufacturer of hepatitis A.
Okay. Is there any? Got it. Okay. And then. How about the meningococcal vaccine? What's the product name and manufacturer for that one?
Meningococcal vaccines are manufactured the present time by Sanofi, by GSK, by Pfizer. Those are the three.
And how about the HPV vaccine manufacturer, the product name and manufacturer, please?
Merck and GSK both manufacture HPV vaccines.
Okay. So every vaccine that you believe Faith should receive is produced by either Merck, Sanofi, GSK, or Pfizer, correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much the case in this country at the present time. There are a limited number of vaccine manufacturers because a vaccine manufacturer is difficult and costly.
Would it be correct to call these four companies the big four vaccine manufacturers?
Yes, that's correct. Johnson & Johnson is attempting to come into the field, but they are not yet one of the major manufacturers.
Have you received any payments from Sanofi or any of its related or predecessor entities?
Yes, certainly.
Okay. In what years did you receive payments?
Oh, jeez. Well, first of all, as you should know, in the 1990s, I was medical and scientific director of Sanofi Pasteur. So obviously I was paid by them. Since then, I've been consulting for manufacturers, for biotechs, for governments, for nonprofits, and essentially for anyone interested in vaccine development. And so I have been remunerated by companies, not by nonprofits, obviously, that is essentially what I do.
Is there a year since 1990 that you've not received any kind of payment or remuneration from Sanofi?
Probably not, no.
Okay. How much did you receive? What would you say is the approximate total amount of payments and remuneration you've received from Sanofi during your lifetime?
Oh my God. I have no idea. I'm sure it's a sizable amount of money, but you'd have to ask my wife, who's essentially my accountant.
Mm-hmm. Is your wife the person that would have the records to know that amount?
Yeah, she probably would.
Okay. Would you say it's more or less than $100,000?
Oh, I'm sure it's more than that.
Would you say it's more or less than 500,000?
Probably, yes. I would, over the years, I imagine it is.
Would you say it's more or less than $1 million?
Well, again, I'm not prepared to answer this question, but I am sure it's a considerable amount of money, and over the years, it could well be more than $1 million.
Do you believe it could be a few million?
You know, Counselor, I cannot give you a precise figure. It is a considerable amount of money, I do not doubt. but I couldn't not give you a specific number because I've never looked at it.
Okay, well, I'm going to make a request for the documents to understand precisely how much you've received from Sanofi over the years.
I mean, you guys can do any discovery requests that you want. That he doesn't have it with him today, he can't produce it right now.
Your objection is noticed, Counselor. Thank you. Has any entity in which you directly or indirectly have a greater than 1% ownership interest received any payment from Sanofi or any of its related or predecessor entities?
Could you repeat that question?
Sure. Is any entity, do you understand what I mean by the term entity, Dr. Plotkin?
Are you talking about me personally, or?
When I say, I'm asking if you understand what the term entity means in that question.
No.
Okay, great. So when I use the term entity, I mean it to include any business, sole proprietorship, company, LLC, LLP, limited liability company, organization, and so forth. Is that clear what entity means?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm asking is any entity, so any business company that you've had, directly or indirectly, more than 1% ownership interest, okay? Has any company like that received money from Sanofi?
Well, again, I'm not sure I understand the question, but I am the principal of a company called VaxConsult,
Okay.
which essentially was organized to make things easier from the tax point of view. And that entity, if that's what you mean, has received payments from companies for whom I consult. So it's a device, if you will, to make things simpler for the accountant.
Okay. So who owns VaxConsult?
I do, or my wife and I do.
Okay. And what percent do you own?
100%.
Okay. And is there any other company, and payments have been made to VaxConsult by Sanofi?
Sure.
Okay. And what's the total amount of payments that have been made to VaxConsult by Sanofi?
Well, again, I do not have an exact number. I am sure that over the years it's a considerable amount, but I cannot tell you exactly how much.
Is there any other company in which you have an ownership interest that's received money from Sanofi?
No.
Okay. You anticipate to continue to receive payments or any kind of other remuneration from Sanofi in the future?
As long as my health holds out, yes.
Okay. And what are those payments for?
For advice.
Have you received any payments from Merck or any of its related or predecessor entities?
Yes.
Okay. And what year did you receive payments?
All I can say is since I stopped working for Sanofi, which was in early 2000s, I've consulted for essentially all of the major manufacturers. I do not know how much I received, but I certainly received payments from Merck, from Glaxo, from Pfizer, and many other entities.
So what was approximately the first year that you received payments from Merck?
Sometime in the 2000s.
Would you say that you've received more than $100,000 in payments remuneration from Merck since then?
I have no idea.
But you would have records that would be able to determine that amount, correct?
Yes, I doubt that it's 100,000, but I don't recall. As I said, my wife does the accounting, and I pay no attention to it.
Do you anticipate receiving any payments for remuneration from Merck in the future?
Sure.
You said that you've received payments and another remuneration from GSK in the past.
Yes.
Okay. When did those payments start?
Again, I cannot give you a precise year, but as I've tried to say repeatedly, since 2000, I've been consulting for many different entities, including GSK and the others.
Mm-hmm. Do you expect to continue to receive payments from remuneration from GSK in the future?
Yes.
Okay. I'll ask you the same question about Pfizer. You indicated that you have received payments from remuneration from Pfizer.
Yes.
Do you remember when you first received any payments from them or any remuneration?
No, I don't recall what year that would be.
Okay. And do you have a sense of approximately how much you've received?
No.
Do you anticipate continuing to receive payments from remuneration from Pfizer?
Very likely.
Now, all of the payments that you've received from the big four vaccine manufacturers, as we've
Mm-hmm.
defined it, they were either made to you directly or through what was that?
Vax Consult.
Or Vax Consult?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we try this a little bit of a different way? Since it appears your memory of over longer periods of time is not as clear with regard to how much payment remuneration you received from the big four. Can you tell me what is the total amount of payments in dollars you received in 2017, last year, from anyone or any entity involved in the development or sale of vaccines?
Of what?
From any entity involved in the development or sale of vaccines.
Oh. My recollection is in the neighborhood of 200,000.
Sorry about that, the microphone wire got stuck. Let me just get this back on. Do you own any stock in Sanofi?
No.
Have you ever?
No.
Do you own any stock options in Sanofi?
No.
Have you ever?
No.
How about from Merck, Glaxo, or Pfizer? Do you own any stock in any of those companies?
No.
Any stock options?
No.
Okay. Has any educational or not-for-profit institution in which you have been involved received funding from Sanofi?
That's a very difficult question to answer. I don't inquire about the finances of the organizations that I work for or that I advise. So I find that question very, very difficult to answer. I imagine that some of them do, but I have no knowledge of the matter. Voices for Vaccines, for example, receives no funding from any of the pharmaceutical companies, and that is in order to avoid any suggestion of a conflict of interest. And I think that's probably true for a number of the nonprofits I advise, but obviously it may not be true for companies.
So you're saying Voices for Vaccines doesn't receive any funding from pharmaceutical companies?
None.
What's your affiliation with that group?
Well, I was one of those who suggested that an organization of lay people, as opposed to scientists, would be a good idea to oppose all of the nonsense that one sees on the web from anti-vaccination organizations.
So it was your idea to create Voices for Vaccines?
It wasn't my sole idea. It was a suggestion that I made at a certain point, and it turned out that there were lay people who were interested in promoting vaccines. Since then, I've been on their advisory board, but other than that, I have no role in the organization.
But you were, so from what I'm understanding, tell me if I'm correct, but it sounds like you were a driving force in suggesting its creation and at least initially
Yes.
getting it set up. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Going to hand you what has been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 1.
And Amy, is that coming to my email?
It will be in just one moment.
All right.
I don't. The marked one? Yeah, that's fine. I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 1.
I have to email it to Mrs.
Yeah, go ahead.
it's been sent. Hopefully it will come through.
I'm sure it will. Oh, it's going to be all day. Got it?
Okay, great. Dr. Plotkin, do you recognize this as a printout from the Voices for Vaccines website?
Well, that's what it says. I don't read the website that often, but yes.
Okay. And I see that it's got you listed on the Scientific Advisory Board on the
Yes.
3rd page, correct?
Yes.
Now you see at the very end on the last page, Dr. Plotkin, see at the very bottom it says Voices for Vaccines is an administrative project of the Task Force for Global Health.
Yes.
Okay. And it receives funding from that organization, correct?
No.
Okay.
Does not receive funding. The task force was asked to do what shall I say, the financial stuff required for an organization like Voices for Vaccines, but it does not contribute financially to Voices for Vaccines.
Dr. Plug, I'm going to hand you what's been marked as Exhibit 2. This is a Form 90 tax return for the Task Force for Global Health. Yeah. I'm just not going to ask him questions until you emailed it.
Just be mindful while you're taking the exhibits at the end today.
So I've handed you what has been marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 2. It is the tax return for the 990 tax return for the Task Force for Global Health. If you turn to the second page, do you see Section 4C,
Yes.
where there's expenses of $3,757,924?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see that one of the groups receiving part of that funding was on the last line, Voices for Vaccines?
I don't see where it says
The last sentence in 4C.
Voices for Vaccines has expanded its educational outreach through new media and parenting networks, increasing its membership and its on-the-ground reach. So,
If you go up to number 4, Dr. Plotkin, can you read what the items in that list are supposed to be describing?
expenses, including grants, revenues. So,
I'll read it to you. Number 4, it says, describe the organization's program service accomplishments for each of its 3 largest program services as measured by expenses.
yeah,
Okay. Are you claiming that this document does not represent that Voices for Vaccines received funding from the Task Force for Global Health?
as far as I am aware, the Voices for Vaccines receives no funding from the task force. The task force, under Dr. Alan Hinman, has agreed to do the financial, whatever is required by the government to do the financial work for Voices for Vaccines. But as far as I'm aware, it receives no funding from the task force or any other governmental or semi-governmental entity.
So the task force does provide some support for Voices for Vaccines, correct?
It does,
He
yes.
already answered. He said he doesn't know.
Your objection is noted, thank you. The Task Force for Global Health Does the Task Force for Global Health receive funding from any of the big four pharmaceutical companies?
I do know for a fact, but I doubt it. The task force, I know secondhand, but I believe that they receive funding from CDC, but as far as I know, not from companies.
Dr. Plotkin, I'm going to hand you what's marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 3.
Yes, so.
This is a
Oh,
fact.
I see. Yes, where it says funders.
Does this?
Well, I stand corrected. So the task force then does receive funding from companies. However, I don't see that has any bearing on its work for Voices for Vaccines.
Okay. Did you get the email?
Where is that in the? Am I looking at the same exhibit you guys are?
You should have received Deposition Exhibit 3.
And it's a page from the Lancet?
No. Number 80. No, that's the wrong one.
Give me 1 second, sorry.
All right.
No. Hold on. Just type task force. Can you search? Start task. Open that one? No. No. Just under the webpage. Just search that webpage on the internet.
Remove your hand from your face when you're testifying.
About us. No. Counsel?
Yes?
It's what it is a it's a fact sheet printed out from the Task Force for Global Health, and on the left side it just shows the donors. Dr. Plotkin's already, he's already. I'm just going to ask him to read the donors, and that's it. Can I assume?
All right.
Okay. So does this show that the Task Force for Global Health received funding from GSK?
Yes, it does, but I want to repeat that the Voices for Vaccines has studiously avoided receiving funding from any company, and the fact that the task force is doing its finances was only a matter of convenience and an offer from Dr. Hinman that they would do that, and because they have experience with filing tax returns, etc. And I do not believe, and I strongly do not believe, that any of the funding to the task force passes to Voices for Vaccines.
Does the Task Force for Global Health receive funding from Merck
Yes,
and from Pfizer?
apparently yes.
Okay. So the Task Force for Global Health receives funding from pharmaceutical companies, and at the least, I'm understanding from you, provides some kind of administrative support services. to the Voices for Vaccines, correct?
Correct.
And one of the founding voices to create that organization was yourself, correct?
I was one of those who suggested it, yes.
And you receive remuneration from pharmaceutical companies, correct?
I do, yes.
Okay. Does anybody out that works for Voices for Vaccines, strike that. Okay. That's the 3. Okay, so going back to what we were discussing, I had asked you earlier, has any educational or not-for-profit institution in which you have been involved received funding from Sanofi? You indicated that would be difficult to answer. Can you tell me, but you did indicate to me, and correct me if I say anything that I don't want to misspeak, but you indicated there are some groups that don't receive any funding from pharmaceutical companies, correct? And you mentioned Voices
Correct.
for Vaccines as the main
Yes.
one. Okay. Is there any other education or nonprofit institution in which you've been affiliated that you're aware of that does not and has not received funding from any vaccine company?
Well, I certainly advise the Gates Foundation. I advise the National Institutes of Health. I think those are the major institutions that are not in the business of developing vaccines, and they do not receive funding from companies.
Does the NIH hold any patents on any vaccine-related technology?
I believe they do. Yes.
Do they receive royalties from those patents?
I imagine they do. Yes.
To your knowledge, you're not aware of whether any of the other educational not-for-profit institutions outside of Voices for Vaccines, as you've said, Gates Foundation or NIH, that don't receive any money from any of the pharmaceutical companies?
I'm not sure I can answer that question categorically, but
Just based on your knowledge. I mean, either if you don't know, then
I'm sure there are organizations that are not funded by industry, but whether I'm trying to think of ones that I've advised over the years. Well, the Sabin Foundation, I'm not sure whether they receive funding from industry or not, but I don't normally inquire of the organizations that I advise where their funding comes from.
have you ever worked on developing a vaccine that was eventually used by the public?
Yes.
Okay. Which ones?
Let's see. Well, rubella, rotavirus, rabies, and I've made contributions here and there to anthrax, cytomegalovirus, varicella. That's all I can remember at the moment.
Okay. The varicella vaccine, you're talking about the Varivax?
Yeah.
Okay. When you say you contributed to it, how did you contribute to the development of varicella?
Essentially by showing how it could be used and demonstrating that it was safe and effective.
Did you work directly with Merck on that?
I don't recall whether it was directly with Merck or not. Certainly it was the vaccine produced by Merck, but whether, I don't recall that they actually funded my studies of varicella vaccine, but they were the producers of the vaccine, certainly.
Where were you working when you did this work?
At Children's Hospital of Philadelphia.
Did Children's Hospital ever acquire any intellectual property rights in what was
From
developed?
varicella, no.
No. Have you developed or been part in any way in the development of any vaccine from which you have received any payment, revenue, or income related to the sale of that vaccine?
Yes, although I should stipulate that all of the patents on vaccines that I've developed have been taken out by the institutions for which I was working, and that they gave me, I stress that it was not a requirement, but they gave me part of the profits deriving from the patents.
Okay, which are those?
Sorry?
Which vaccines are those?
Mainly rubella, rotavirus, and rabies.
And the rubella vaccine that you developed is currently used as part of the MMR vaccine?
Correct.
Okay. And this is one of the vaccines you believe Faith's pediatrician should purchase and administer to her?
Absolutely.
Okay. What is the total amount of payments in any form you have directly or indirectly received from the sale of the rubella vaccine?
Oh. I cannot give you a figure. I would say that I do not doubt, but again, I'd have to ask my wife. I do not doubt that they were substantial amounts of money, and similarly for rotavirus and rabies.
Okay. Was it in the millions of dollars? For rubella, just rubella?
I don't think so. Well, that's all I can say. I don't think so.
Okay. Are you in the possession of documents that would illuminate how much you've received in payment from the sale of the rubella vaccine?
Probably. I hope they have been retained. I don't know, but I imagine.
Okay. And do you continue to receive any payments from the sale or royalties or any other remuneration from the sale of the rubella vaccine?
Currently, I don't think so.
Okay. When did it cease?
Oh, Jesus. I couldn't tell you exactly. Sometime during this century, I don't know. You know, if I had thought that this was going to be about my finances, I would have had my wife come along, because I don't follow these things, and certainly what I've done has not been based on what remuneration I could receive from the work that I've done. So if you want financial details, I will have to collect them in some other form. But
how do you think your wife would feel of you offering her up for a deposition?
I don't think she would like it very much.
Right. It wasn't a serious question. Okay. So, but I'll request those documents. Now, do you have, you said that you're not sure whether it was in the millions of dollars that you've received from the sale of rubella, correct?
Correct.
But it could have been?
I doubt it, but it could have been. I don't think so.
Who provided you those payments?
The Wistar Institute.
Okay. Did it come from any other source other than Wistar?
I don't think so, because the Wistar holds the patent.
Okay. Were you listed as one of the patent,
One of the inventors?
one of the inventors?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. But but Windstar was the assignee, is that right?
Yes,
And so they received they're the ones who gave the license to Merck.
yes, yes.
So Merck would pay Wistar, and then Wistar would remit some of that to you. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm trying to recall whether Children's Hospital was involved. I don't think so at that point, because that was many years ago.
Okay. And you indicated that you've also developed the rotavirus vaccine earlier. I believe you said it was Rototech?
Yes,
Okay. And I think you said earlier that's currently one of 2 rotavirus vaccines
Yes.
currently on the market in the U.S.? Okay. And you obtained a patent for Rototech?
Wistar and Children's Hospital developed patents.
Okay. Who was listed as the inventor? Or co-inventors?
Myself, Paul Offit, and Fred Clark.
Okay. And who were the assignees of the patent for Rototech?
The assignees, you mean who used the...
Well, when you file the patent, there's usually an inventor listed, and then there's who the patent's assigned to.
Well, the patents were taken out by Wistar and Children's Hospital, if that's what you mean.
Okay. And so they were the ones who had the rights to the patent?
Yes.
Okay. How much remuneration to date have you received from sales of Rototech?
I couldn't tell you exactly, but it's been a considerable amount.
Okay. Has it been in the millions?
I hesitate to say exactly. It could be, but I really do not know.
You were entitled, so you indicated that Children's Hospital, Philadelphia, is that sometimes referred to as CHOP?
Yes.
Okay. CHOP was entitled to receive revenue from the sale of Rototech?
Yes.
Okay. And what portion from the sale of Rototech was CHOP entitled to?
Well, as I understand it, 50%.
Okay. And what percent of that 50 were you entitled to?
I don't know.
Okay. Do you know how much revenue CHOP received from the sale of Rototech?
I do not.
Okay. Did it ever come a time where CHOP sold its interest in the Rototech virus vaccine?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Do you remember how much approximately it was sold for?
No.
Exhibit 10. I'm going to hand you what is being marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 4. This is a press release from Royalty Pharma. And the title of the press release is Royalty Pharma acquires royalty interest in Rototech from the Children's Hospital Foundation for $182 million.
Ms. Newsma, you should have that in just 1 second.
Okay. Looking at exhibit number 4, does that refresh your recollection of how much CHOP sold its interest in Rototech for in 2008?
Assuming it's correct, yes.
Does that sound about right?
I have no idea, but presumably it's correct.
Do you have any reason to doubt the authenticity of this press release?
No.
Do you have any reason to doubt that CHOP sold its Rototech interest in 2008 for $182 million?
I have no reason to doubt it.
Okay. Did you receive a portion of those proceeds?
I believe so, yes.
And what was that amount?
I could not tell you precisely. I really can't. I don't do these things for the money, and although it's gratifying to receive monetary awards, I don't personally keep track of it. And again, if I had realized this was going to be the tone of this deposition, I would have asked my wife to come along.
You're here today opining that Faith should receive vaccines that are made by the big 4 pharmaceutical companies, correct?
I am, yes.
Okay. And you didn't anticipate that your financial dealings with those companies would be relevant to that issue?
I guess, no, I did not perceive that that was relevant to my opinion as to whether a child should receive vaccines. Vaccines have to be made by somebody, and of course, in this world, they're made by pharmaceutical companies who make profits on vaccines. And the fact that they make profits on vaccines has no bearing on whether those vaccines are good for a child or not.
So you think the fact that pharmaceutical companies make money on vaccines doesn't bias how they approach the promotion of their own products?
I imagine it biases them in favor of vaccines, but so does most of the scientific world.
Are you saying most of the scientific world is biased because of financial
No, I'm
conflicts and
saying
interests?
that most of the scientific world believes that vaccines protect children against serious diseases.
Okay. Do you have a peer-reviewed study that actually supports what you just said?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, good. We'll make a demand for that too.
Well, you can certainly buy a copy of the vaccines textbook, which contains thousands of references showing that vaccines work and are safe.
Okay. So, from the $182 million sale to CHOP, that CHOP made to Royalty Pharma, do you believe that you received more or less than $1 million?
I could have received more than $1 million. I don't have an exact figure.
You stated earlier that your co-inventor on this patent was Paul Offit.
Yes.
Okay. Were you entitled to similar remuneration as he was?
Yes.
Okay. Are you aware that he has stated publicly how much he's received from that sale?
I'm not aware that he has.
Okay. If I told you he said that he received approximately $6 million, would that would that help you recall how much you received?
Not really, but I believe whatever Paul has said, I'm sure is correct.
Okay. So, is $6 million a lot of money in your opinion?
Yes.
Okay. If you received $6 million, you think you'd remember?
Actually, Counselor, no. I hesitate to say this because it sounds as if I'm some sort of idiot. but I really do not follow what income I get. I have no doubt that it was a lot of money, but I cannot give you an exact figure. I actually do not read my own tax returns. I say that in complete honesty.
How about the Wistar Institute? I believe you stated earlier they also were held to intellectual property on Rototech, correct?
Yes.
Did there ever come a time, and you receive a portion of the proceeds that Winstar receives, correct?
Yes.
And you continue to receive payments from Winstar for the sale of Rototech?
I don't think I've received anything in the last couple of years, but I have in the past.
Okay. How much approximately have you received in the past?
I don't remember.
Okay. Do you recall Wistar selling a portion of its royalty interest to Rototech?
I believe they have.
Okay. Do you remember approximately how much?
No.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's in Marcus Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. It's a PR Newswire article. Can you read the title, please?
The Wistar Institute sells partial royalty interest in Merck's Rototech to the Pool Royalty Fund.
Okay. Does that refresh your recollection of how much they sold a royalty interest?
No.
Okay.
Ms. Newsma, did you receive Exhibit 5?
I did. I believe it's Exhibit 5. I haven't. Yep, just got it.
Thank you.
Can you please read the first sentence of the article, Dr. Plotkin?
The Wistar Institute today announced it has sold a portion of its anticipated worldwide royalty revenues from Rototech to an affiliate of the Pool Royalty Fund for $45 million.
Does that refresh your recollection of how much they received for selling a portion of their interest in Rototech?
I know that they sold it. I don't have in my head how much they sold it for, but I presume this is correct.
Okay. The Winstar Institute is entitled to what percentage of the sales from the Rototech?
I do not know.
Okay. And you, from this $45 million sale, any recollection of all of how much you received?
No recollection. I'm sure I received some.
Do you think it was sizable?
I think it was probably sizable, yes.
More than a few $100,000?
I think so. I don't have a figure in my head.
You have documents that would indicate how much you received?
I would imagine so, yes.
I'll make a request for those as well. Okay. Are you familiar with the Immunization Action Coalition?
Yes.
Okay. What is your understanding of what this group does?
They promote vaccination through education and emails and meetings.
Okay. Would you say it's one of the main advocacy groups for vaccines in this country?
I think it's an important one, yes.
Okay. Does it receive funding from pharmaceutical companies?
I think so. I'm not certain. I don't know exactly where their financing comes from, but I think they very well may.
Okay. I'm going to hand you what's marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 6. It's a printout from the Immunization Action Coalition webpage showing their funding for 2017. You can kindly take a look at that in the section that says, that lists the pharma company donors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Are any of the companies listed there vaccine manufacturer or trying to develop vaccines?
Yes.
Which ones?
AstraZeneca, Glaxo, Merck, Pfizer, Sanofi, Securus.
So all of them.
Yes.
Ms. Newsmont, can you confirm you received Exhibit 6?
Haven't gotten it yet, but I should have it in just a second. Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you know approximately what % of Immunization Action Coalition's funding comes from those pharmaceutical companies?
No idea.
Okay. Can you name me a major medical group such as the American Academy of Pediatrics or similar that you know does not receive any funding from any pharmaceutical company?
Well, inasmuch as I do not know what organizations receive what funding, I really can't answer that question.
So sitting here today, you don't know of one?
I don't know what funding, for example, AAP receives from manufacturers, no.
Okay. So sitting here today, you're not aware of any medical group that does not receive any support from pharmaceutical companies, correct?
I am not aware of the funding of medical organizations and whether or not they receive funding from pharmaceutical companies.
Okay. So just to recap, I think it would be correct to say that you've received in total from the companies that develop or manufacture vaccines, payments or remuneration at least in the amount of a few $1 million, correct?
I think it's correct to say that since I left Children's Hospital in the 1990s, I have received considerable funding for my work in developing vaccines and in advising companies how to develop vaccines. And I have also given advice freely to organizations that could not pay me because I believe that vaccines are important to the health of children and adults.
So the answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but I wish to say very clearly that none of the things that I have been done with the objective of gaining money. It has been my fortune that I have been rewarded financially for the work that I've done, but none of the things that I've done have been done for financial gain. And I resent very much the line of questioning that suggests that what I believe and what I've done have been done for financial reasons.
Nobody's suggesting that, Dr. Plotkin. I'm just asking you.
Baloney, you
What-
are suggesting that.
Well, you're suggesting that. Dr. Plotkin, so you indicated that a lot of the remuneration you received is from the 1990s. Have you received any funding from the big four pharma companies or their predecessors before 1990?
I would say probably not. It's very hard to remember that far back, but certainly not any substantial funding. I may have received honoraria for attending meetings in those days, but certainly nothing considerable. At that point, I was working at the University of Pennsylvania in the Children's Hospital and the Wistar Institute, and was, of course, paid by those entities.
Could you read the last answer back for me, please?
Answer, I would say probably not. You know, it's very hard to remember that far back, but certainly not any substantial funding. I may have received honorary for attending meetings in those days, but certainly nothing considerable. At that point, I was working at the University of Pennsylvania and the Children's Hospital and the Wistar Institute, and was of course paid by those entities.
Okay. Did you receive any funding from any pharmaceutical company related to the development of vaccines before 1990?
I don't recall receiving any funding for the development of rubella vaccine before it was licensed, and then funding passed through Wistar. As far as rotavirus is concerned, I did have grants, not personal money, but grants for rotavirus development from Sanofi. And I had no funding for rabies. That's as much as I can recall.
Okay. But you indicated that you didn't get funding for the work on the rubella vaccine, right?
I don't believe I had any funding until it was eventually licensed by Merck.
And when was that?
That was about 1970, early 70s.
So from the early 70s, you were receiving funding, you're saying, from Merck related to rubella?
No, Wistar was receiving
Wistar
funding.
from Merck.
Yes.
Got it. But before that,
The Merck did not fund the development of rubella vaccine until it was licensed.
oh, 73, it's going to be 7.
Ms. Newsma, you should have Exhibit 7.
I'm going to hand you, Dr. Plotkin, what's marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 7.
Just got it.
Okay. Can you read the title of the article, please?
Attenuation of RA27.3 rubella virus and WI38 human diploid cells.
And who's the first listed author?
I am.
Okay. And what is the year of this publication?
1969.
All right. And if you go to the If you go to the summary, you know what, Dr. Plotkin, let me, may I?
Oh, yes.
Yes, and does it say there that Dr. Plotkin is a recipient of an award from SmithKline? Is that a predecessor to GSK?
Yes, it is,
Okay.
yes.
And French Inc., Philadelphia, for research on rubella vaccine, correct?
Yes. Unfortunately, that was not the vaccine that eventuated. In other words, the RA-273 was not really the product of any GSK funding.
I'm highlighting on this one. I'm just going to put it on the right one. Okay. So does that refresh your recollection now of maybe what was an earlier time that you received funding from pharmaceutical companies towards development related to a vaccine?
Yes,
Okay.
I did have some funding from GSK, but they had their own candidate rubella vaccine.
Dr. Plotkin, I'm going to hand you what is marked as Plaintiff's Exhibit 8.
Ms. Newsma, did you receive that Exhibit 8?
I'm sure I will.
It might take a second. It's Dr. Plotkin's curriculum vitae. So it's a
Oh, I've got a copy of that already.
Thank you.
This is your CV, correct, Dr. Plotkin?
Yes.
Did you update the CV recently?
I think it was updated last year, but I'm not sure exactly. It probably doesn't have every last publication.
On the first page, in the top right corner, do you see the date?
June 2017.
Was that when it was last updated?
Yes.
Okay. If you go to the end, I saw that you went. There are some articles here that were published in 2017 in which you're an author.
Yes.
I think I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 articles, correct?
I guess.
Okay, some of these were published within the last few months.
Mm-hmm.
I think some of them were published in December, November, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so this has been updated very recently, correct?
Well, June 2017.
The articles, if you go to Article 794, Rodriguez, Pinto.
Yeah.
Do you know what month of the year that was published?
No.
Okay. If I told you it was published after June, would that?
No, I guess my secretary must have added it.
Okay. When's the last time you reviewed this CV?
Probably in June 2017.
Okay. You provided this CV to the attorney for the defendant in this case?
Yes.
Okay. It's quite a hefty CV, Dr. Plotkin. It's over 200 pages. I see there's 794 articles in it, which you were the author, correct?
Yes.
It's a lot of articles. I see a lot of honors, including Who's Who in America since 1978.
Mm-hmm.
Got a number of faculty appointments at a number of universities I see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Any of faculty appointments missing from this list?
I don't think so.
Okay. I also see that there's you have a professor emeritus position at University of Pennsylvania in Wistar. Do you teach any courses there?
Yes,
Do you continue to teach any courses?
yes.
What do you teach there?
Participate in the vaccine course at the university and essentially give advice to Wistar.
And for the university, did you teach a course last semester?
Yes,
Have you been doing that every year for
pretty
the last
much, yes.
few years? What's the name of the course?
Vaccines, I don't remember the exact name, but it's essentially a course in vaccines.
How many days a week does the class meet?
Oh, 2 days a week.
I see you have a number of hospital and administrative appointments. 1, 2, 3. You have 6 of them, all right? It looks like they're all at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and then Department of Pediatrics. Any of your hospital administrative appointments missing from this list, Dr. Plotkin?
No, I don't think so. I do have an appointment at Johns Hopkins, but yeah,
And what is that?
I'm an adjunct professor.
Since when?
Gosh, I think sometime in the 2000s.
I see you have positions in industry listed, correct?
Yes,
I see 2 of them. I see one is from 1991 to 1997, the medical and scientific director at Sanofi,
yes,
right? And 1997-2009, executive advisor to the CEO of Sanofi, correct?
correct.
Okay. But as discussed earlier, since 2009, you've also worked for Sanofi, correct?
I have, yes,
And you work for Merck
yes,
and Glaxo
Yes.
and Pfizer.
yes.
How come those aren't listed here, Dr. Plotkin?
Well, they are consultancies. They're not official appointments. I don't have a let's say a title at Merck. I'm simply a consultant to them, and so it's not in my CV.
So in providing this CV to defendant's counsel, you didn't think disclosing your affiliations with the very companies whose product you're saying Faith should received, who her pediatrician purchased and provide to her, was necessary to disclose?
The CV.
Strike the question. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Are you willing to update your CV to disclose all of the connections you have with the big 4 pharmaceutical companies?
Yes, of course. The CV is
Okay.
It's created not for for legal purposes. This is created to inform people who want to know about my papers and my appointments at various universities.
You provided this to defendant's counsel, correct?
Yes,
To show your experience as relevant to being an expert witness in this case, correct?
to show my experience as in the field of vaccines. Yes,
What is Dynavax Technologies?
Dynavax is a company that is working on adjuvantation of vaccines and has recently licensed a hepatitis B vaccine that is more immunogenic than the current vaccines.
Okay. This is a for-profit company.
Yes,
Right. And it's involved in the development of vaccines, right?
yes,
You're on the board of directors of this company, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That affiliation is not disclosed on the CV, correct?
It's not on the CV,
Okay.
no.
What is VBI vaccines?
Variations Bio,
Okay, and what is that?
that's a biotech developing vaccines.
Okay. And this is a for-profit company as well, correct?
Yes,
And you are also on the board of directors of this company, right?
yes.
And that affiliation is not disclosed in your CV, correct?
It is not in my CV, no.
Okay. What is MyMedics?
MyMedics is a biotech in Europe. They've actually, I haven't done anything for them in at least a year now, but I think I'm still officially on their board.
You're chairman of their scientific advisory board, correct?
As I said, I haven't done anything for them for at least a year, so if that is correct, that's sort of
Okay.
an old thing.
But they're a for-profit company.
Yes,
And how long were you on their board?
a couple of years, I don't remember
Okay.
exactly.
But that affiliation is not on your CV, correct?
No.
Dynavax Technologies, what have you done for them?
Dynavax, I've been on their board.
Okay. You attend the board meetings?
Not recently, but yes, in the past.
Have you advocated on their behalf?
Yes.
Have you done that in any government meetings, for
Yes.
example,
Yes.
to seek licensure of the vaccine?
Yes. And it was just licensed.
Okay. And so you were advocating as a board member of a technology company to get licensure of a new vaccine, correct?
Yes.
We have 5 minutes left on the disc.
Inovio Biomedical Corp. What's that?
That's a biotech that's developing vaccines based on DNA.
And is this a for-profit company?
Yes.
And what is your affiliation with the company?
I'm on their board.
Okay. And was that affiliation disclosed in your CV?
No.
Okay. What's CureVac AG?
It's also a biotech.
Okay. Is it a for-profit company?
Yes.
Is it involved in the development of vaccines?
Yes.
What's your affiliation with that company?
I'm on their board.
Okay. Is that affiliation disclosed in your CV?
No.
Okay. What is SYN, SYN vaccine?
Actually, I'm not sure about that name, but as I recall, it's a company trying to develop synthetic vaccines.
What's your affiliation with that company?
Actually, I don't recall that. I've certainly helped them, but I don't recall that I have a board position. Or whether I'm officially on the board or not. I haven't had contact with them for some time.
What is GeoVax Labs?
It's also a biotech.
Okay. Is it a for-profit company?
Yes.
Is it involved in the development of vaccines?
Yes.
What's your affiliation with that company?
I've been an advisor, and I think I'm officially on their board. They're trying to develop a vaccine against HIV.
Was this affiliation disclosed in your CV? No, right?
No,
Okay.
I don't have my consultancies on my CV.
You're on the board of these companies, correct?
Yes.
Okay. What is Glycovaccine AG? That's GLYCO, then capital VAXYN AG.
It was a biotech in Europe.
Okay. Is it a for-profit company?
It was.
Okay. Was it involved in the development of vaccines?
Yes.
Were you on the board of this company as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is that disclosed in your CV?
No.
What is Adjuvance Technologies? That's ADJUVANCE Technologies.
It's a company trying to develop adjuvants for vaccines.
Okay. Is it a for-profit company?
Yes.
Okay. You're on the board of this company as well, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that affiliation isn't disclosed in your CV either, right?
No.
What is Bionet Asia?
A company developing a new pertussis vaccine.
This is a for-profit company as well?
Yes.
Okay. And you're on the board of this company as well?
Yes.
That affiliation also wasn't disclosed in your CV, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What's Abcombi? That's ABCOMBI Biosciences.
I haven't heard from them in a long time, and actually, I'm not even sure. I mean, I had an interview with the founder once. Whether he listed me as a board member, I don't know. I haven't heard from him in a long time.
It's a for-profit company?
I really have no idea. I assume it is, but I don't know.
And I should say that I'm spelling them out for the benefit of the court reporter. I assume you know the spelling. I'm just doing it for the benefit of the court reporter. What's Hookipia Biotech? That's
Hookipia.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hookipia.
Yeah,
Biotech.
it's a European biotech.
Okay, is it a for-profit company?
Yes.
All right, and it's involved in the development of vaccines?
Yes, hopefully.
And you're also on the board of this company?
Yes.
Okay, and that affiliation also wasn't disclosed in your CV, right?
No.
Okay. You mentioned one of the companies was in the process of developing trying to develop a new pertussis vaccine. Which company was that again?
Bionet.
Thank you. Why are they trying to develop a new pertussis vaccine?
Because the problem with current acellular vaccines is that although they are protective, the protection doesn't last as long as we would like. And Bionet has developed a component of pertussis vaccine that should give longer lasting responses.
How long does the current immunity last from the current acellular pertussis vaccine?
Well, it lasts for probably on the order of 5 years, but the efficacy diminishes after 2 years or so, and the result is that there have been more pertussis in adolescents than we would like.
So when you say after 5 years, the immunity's gone, in 2 years, the efficacy, do you mean after the, how many dose, the 4 or 5 dose DTaP series?
Well, I should go into some detail. The first
30 seconds.
the first 3 doses are given.
You know what? I apologize.
Okay.
It's about to run out, and
Yeah.
I don't want to give the video
All right.
for a hard time.
This ends disc 1 of the deposition of Dr. Stэнli Plotkin. We're going off the record. The time is 10:32.
I apologize for cutting off.